Hello, hello, namaste, Hari Om.
Namaste, Shankara.
Namaste. There we are.
Namaste, Swami.
Oh, namaste, Shashi.
That's the last class.
Till September, yeah.
Yeah. Are you going somewhere or staying there?
No. It's complicated enough just to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, it is getting more and more complicated. Anybody in our congregation has any problem from COVID?
You know, Swayam tested positive, but has
Is it?
no symptoms. So she went through the entire quarantine and did not manifest any symptoms. But she did test positive.
Oh, she did testing.
But
Okay.
that is surprising, I mean.
Well, I think it was a false positive. There are many false positives.
She is not working, no? Or is she working?
No, she's not working.
She is herself a physician, so.
Yes. It worried her a good deal in the beginning. But because she didn't manifest any symptoms at all over the 2-week quarantine period, she seems to be fine. And Naveen tested negative.
That's good.
So I don't know, the test may not be reliable, I think, really.
Well, that's what she said.
Testing,
She said she was told by her primary care physician, this may be a false positive because she didn't have any symptoms. And so that turned out to be, apparently the case, that it was indeed a false positive. But she's the only one that I know of.
Okay.
It's possible that Chinmoyi, Michelle Guzman, did, but she hasn't been in communication. She might have had the virus, but she's been continuing to work at the VA and so on. So, but she hasn't been in communication.
Yeah, because I haven't seen her in so many days, really.
Yeah, she doesn't come to classes and.
Busy with job.
So that we're about to take up a very interesting chapter of this book.
Namaste, Brother Shankara.
Namaste, dear. There you
we
are.
Just took your
name. With the holy ones behind you. Look at that.
Naveen always does this, and then I don't know how to change the screen, so I just leave it.
It's quite all right. Just leave them be. We're perfectly content to gaze upon. Okay. I guess that's Rama and Sita and Lakshmana, yeah?
Yes.
My vision isn't that good, but I'm guessing.
Yes, it is.
Ram, Lakshmana, Sita.
I think he told me how to, but I forgot. But I'll leave it like that for today.
Well, it's just fine. I was just saying to Shaman Shashi, we're about to take up a very interesting section of this book, M's attitude toward Holy Mother, which became very profound. And he was one of the ones who provided a great deal of her support. Hello there, Catherine. Grüß Gott.
Grüß Gott.
Namaste.
Namaste. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Catherine. I don't know that language.
Oh, it's German.
German.
Yeah,
Yeah,
German. Hi,
Bavarian.
Sam. Good to see
You know,
you.
I was once
Yeah.
told I did not speak German. I spoke farmer talk.
Uh,
Bauersprache.
Ja, das
On a
stimmt.
train, this very aristocratic-looking gentleman asked me if I spoke German. In German, he asked me, and I said, "Ja, ein bisschen." And he looked at me with scorn and said, "Na, das ist nicht Deutsch. Das ist Bauersprache. That is not German. That is farmer talk."
oh.
Which I had, of course, learned in Bavaria. So it's after 8 o'clock. We will begin. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. So we're going to start with an interesting section of the book. M. Mahendranath Gupta, the man, the scholar, who took his diaries and of his encounters with, conversations with, time spent with Sri Ramakrishna, and turned them into the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. It's interesting to note that M said that Thakur would from time to time come in disembodied form, but very tangible form to M, and copy edit what M was preparing. He'd say, no, if you remember, that isn't just how I said it this way. And so this is something that can give us great confidence in what's in the gospel. And it also underlines the master's intention that he left that those teachings through M, who he said at one time was his instrument. He is my instrument of M. So this is the M that we're about to read about, who was the master's instrument and the one who, with Thakur's grace and active participation, assembled the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. M's attitude toward Holy Mother. At Bellermont on 18 December 1924, Josephine MacLeod asked M, "Mr. M, today is Holy Mother's birthday. What was she to you?" M replied, "The same as Sri Ramakrishna, God incarnate on earth. He and Holy Mother are one in the same way that Christ said, 'I and my Father are one.'" Now that's very profound right there. In the same way that Christ said, I and my Father are one, Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother are not only one being in two forms, but they are the active principle called Shakti or Maya of Brahman. That's what he means. The Master said that Brahman and Shakti are one. He illustrated this with the example of a serpent. When the serpent is coiled, it is like Brahman in the undifferentiated absolute state. Now, we can recall that this refers also to the serpent power at the base of the spine, the Muladhara. So this is in each of us. When the serpent is coiled, which is said to be the serpent power is coiled at the base of our spine, it is like Brahman in the undifferentiated absolute. When the serpent moves on in a zigzag manner, waveform manner, notice waveform, in a zigzag manner, that is when Brahman as Shakti creates, preserves, and destroys the world. Holy Mother is the embodiment of Shakti, or the primordial energy. This ultimate energy, Brahma Shakti, incarnates in a human body at times for the good of the world. I'll repeat that. Holy Mother is the embodiment of Shakti, or the primordial energy. This ultimate energy, Brahma Shakti, incarnates in a human body at times for the good of the world. It is this ultimate energy that incarnated in dual forms as Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. So these dual forms, Thakur, the Master, and Ma, are one and the same in essence. Now, this is something for us to assimilate, for us to take into our hearts, that when we look on a picture of the Master or we look on a picture of Ma, it is one and the same being who took two different forms for its own purpose. That is to say, that which is behind is genderless. So it took these two forms, Ishvara, Ishwari, for its own purposes, for the good of the world. On 30 August 1886, after the Master's passing away, M sent Nikunja Devi on a pilgrimage with Holy Mother. That was his wife, Nikunja Devi. They visited Vaidyanatha, Varanasi, Ayodhya, and Vrindavan. But within a month, Nikunja contracted malaria and returned to Calcutta with Kali, later Swami Abhedananda. Abhedananda and Yogananda had also gone, not yet Abhedananda, not yet Yogananda. Kali and Yogin had gone on this pilgrimage also. In August 1887, Holy Mother returned to Calcutta, and then in September left for Kamarpukur. She returned to Calcutta in May 1888. So she was gone from September. She was gone from Calcutta from September of 1887 to May of 1888. At that time, Holy Mother did not have her own residence in Calcutta. She lived either in Balaram's house or M's house, or she sometimes stayed in rented homes. M mentioned some of the places where Holy Mother lived from 1888 to 1909. First, Holy Mother stayed at Raju Gumashta's house. Second, near the cremation ground. And third, at Nilambar Mukherjee's house. That Nilambar Mukherjee's house, I don't know about these other places, but that Nilambar Mukherjee house was visitable when we went there to Bellarmine in 1999, and is now, I don't know whether it was in the possession of the order at that time, but I know it is now. These three places are in Belur. In other words, not in Calcutta itself, in Belur. Fourth, she stayed on the second floor of a warehouse in Bag Bazar. It was a jute warehouse, and her entrance was through the warehouse. Fifth, she stayed in a house in front of Girish's house. Sixth, near Nivedita's house, Bushpara Lane. And seventh, at her own house in Udbodhan. And you may recall the story that Swami Charadananda did something very unusual. He felt it was inappropriate for Mother to have to stay in rented houses or be a guest in people's houses when she came to Calcutta from, she went back and forth at that time, primarily from Jairambati to Calcutta. So he did something very unusual for a monk, and that is borrow a sizable sum of money to build this structure called Udbodhan House. And from that facility, he kept his office there. He was the general secretary of the order. He kept his office there. They published the Udbodhan magazine there, and he compiled what became known first as the Great Master, and then Swami Chetanananda translated it again and called it the Master's Divine Play, or the Divine Play of Sri Ramakrishna. And it was a tremendous work that he did there. Well, that was what was on the ground floor. Upstairs was Holy Mother's residence at Udbodhan. And many, many dramatic incidents happened there, including Mother's Mahasamadhi. She passed away there. M recalled, once Holy Mother lived with us for a month. This was in M's house. Once Holy Mother lived with us for a month. Before leaving our home, she presented to our Brahmin cook 2 dhotis, cloths, and money, and she bowed down to him. Now this is the Mother of the universe giving gifts to the servant, the Brahmin servant of M and his wife and their family, the Mother of the universe. Before leaving our home, she presented to our Brahmin cook 2 dhotis, cloths, and money, and she bowed down to him. She also asked blessings from him with folded hands. We were all amazed observing her humility. Thus, she taught us how to pay respect to others. So M is once again passing on a lesson, this time from Holy Mother. Thus she taught us how to pay respect to others. When Holy Mother was staying at M's house, his sister-in-law, Krishnamayi, said to Holy Mother, M says, I have forgotten my previous father and mother. Now Paramahamsa Deva is my father, and Holy Mother is my mother. Holy Mother replied, "He is right. He is providing food for us. I can talk to him, but I feel shy." This was because Holy Mother seldom spoke to any of the Master's male devotees or disciples directly. Sometimes she communicated to them through Golapma or some other woman attendant. And I'll just remind you that those women who lived with Holy Mother were said by the Master to be gopis, who were part of the Rasa Leela of Krishna and Radha, and had asked for the boon of being born in the Leela of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, so that they could be with her, Radha. They saw her as Radha. Sometimes she communicated to disciples and devotees through Golapma or some other woman attendant. Nikunja Devi was the medium of communication between Holy Mother and M. Gradually, M realized that Holy Mother and Ramakrishna were the same spiritual entity. There was no separation between them. So this is re-emphasized for our benefit. This, I think, is the third or fourth time that it's been mentioned specifically. Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother were the same spiritual entity. There was no separation between them. Swami Prabhavananda probably quoted the following conversation from M's record of 23 April 1890. M, Narendra, Jogin, and others were at Balaram's house. Narendra said, the master said so many things, but rarely spoke about Holy Mother. Jogin replied, Jogin became Swami Yogananda, one of Holy Mother's closest and most trusted attendants for a time. Jogin replied, what are you saying? If the master is Ishvara, God, the mother is Ishwari, goddess. Later, Narendra wrote of Holy Mother that she was the living Durga. Later, Narendra wrote of Holy Mother that she was the living Durga. Her divinity and greatness touched the hearts of the devotees and disciples. Now, it's so easy for us to just slide by these things. The living Durga, her divinity and greatness touched the hearts of the devotees and disciples. It's so easy for us to slide by this without holding in our hearts that she can touch us as well. I give a talk every couple of years about Holy Mother's promises, Holy Mother's representations to us of her relationship with us. One of them is, when you are in distress, remember you have a mother. And another, I am your real mother, not just the wife of your guru, not just some consort. No, I am your real mother. She said this. So we have that. And if you want to hear that talk, it's in the archives. You can, I think it's titled Holy Mother's Promises, but if you just go to the search thing and put in mother or promises, I'm sure it'll come up. These beings, as Sri Ramakrishna said to Holy Mother when she was grieving when he left the body, she was grieving and preparing to become a traditional Hindu widow. And Sri Ramakrishna came to her and said, "What are you doing? You're not a widow. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm just behind the curtain. I'm just in the next room." And he said he would remain with us in his subtle body. In other words, just in the next room. We may not be able to see him. We are able to see him with enough sincerity and effort. But, from time to time, we may see him. Most of the time, we will not. But that doesn't mean he's not there and Mother's not there in the next room. They're there in their subtle bodies. And he said, "I will be born again in 200 years, which is 2086. So it's a ways off yet. Most of us here won't live to see 2086. But nevertheless, he said he would be reborn at that time. And he jokingly had a conversation with Mother one time when she said, "I don't want to come back that time. I don't want to go." He said, you don't have any choice, dear. We're like those creepers that grow on the surface of a tank or pond. You pull on the creeper here, it tugs at the creeper clear across the other side of the pond. So they are with us now. We have recourse to them now. And if it appeals to you to pray to Mother and talk to her, as she said to talk to her, when you're in distress, remember you have a mother. The experience of many is that it is really very providential and auspicious and helpful to you to do that. So the next section also has to do with M and Nikunja Devi. It says, Holy Mother gives initiation to M and Nikunja Devi. M and Nikunja Devi were fortunate to have received the grace of both the Master and Holy Mother. When the Master was alive, he wrote a seed mantra on M's tongue. And then on 15 May 1887, M received a mantra from the Master through a dream. Now that was, of course, after his passing away, nearly a year after his passing away. So while he was still alive, with his finger, the Master, Sri Ramakrishna, had written a seed mantra on M's tongue. And then on 15 May 1887, M received a mantra from the Master through a dream. On 30 October 1888, this is right around, Durga would be right around Durga Puja, Nikunja Devi received initiation from Holy Mother, who was then staying at Nilambar Mukherjee's house in Belur. From May to June of 1891, M and Nikunja Devi stayed in Jairambati with Holy Mother. So for a couple of months, they stayed with Holy Mother in Jairambati. Now, you may remember that when people came to see Holy Mother in Jairambati, she served them as if they were her children who had come to visit, like a mother would serve her children. So, Nikunja Devi did a little work in the kitchen and so on, but mainly Mother served both of them as if they were her children, which is how she regarded them, of course. But she did all for them. She cleaned their bedroom. She, cleaned the place where they ate. This was Mother's humility and grace and serviceful nature. Holy Mother and the women devotees lived in the house of Holy Mother's brother, Prasanna. The male devotees stayed in a separate cottage that Prasanna used as his parlor. One night after dinner, Holy Mother had a vision. She saw M as a 5-year-old boy running naked in the streets of Jairambati. I'll repeat this. One night after dinner, Holy Mother had a vision. She saw M as a 5-year-old boy running naked in the streets of Jairambati. The master appeared and pointed to the young M, saying, "Initiate him." Holy Mother wondered, didn't the master already initiate him? Nonetheless, she immediately summoned M and gave him initiation. Now, normally what she would do is she would go tell people to bathe and change clothes and so on and so forth. But in this case, she just summoned him immediately and gave him initiation. M served Holy Mother as he would have served his own mother. On her part, Holy Mother felt free while living with M's family. When the master was in Kashipur, this was those months before his death, M wanted to perform Durga Puja at his home, at his own home. The master said that his desire would be fulfilled. In October 1888, more than 2 years after the master's passing, in October 1888, Holy Mother was staying at M's house. Just before Durga Puja, the master said to her in a dream, M told me he had a desire to perform Durga Puja. Now you arrange Durga Puja and install the ghat, the consecrated pitcher. Accordingly, on Saturday, 8 October 1888, Holy Mother installed and worshipped Sri Chandi Mangal Ghat, the Durga Ghat, and Ramakrishna's photograph in M's shrine, and arranged for their daily worship, which continues even today. And when we were there in 1999, M's grandson, the place had not yet come into the possession of the order. So there were many relics of the master and the mother there. And the grandson continued to perform the daily worship. From then on, this would have been October 1888, from then on, M called his house Thakur Bari, meaning the master's house. This historic event inspired M to record the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So we can see the master and mother continuing to work through M. This historic event inspired M to record the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. M had diary after diary after diary after diary, which he had carefully kept. He had a very retentive memory. So the notes in the diaries, they're now in the museum in Belramat. The notes in the diaries are sometimes very sketchy, but M would recall the entire conversation. And as I said earlier, if he was recalling it just a little bit inaccurately, Sri Ramakrishna would appear to him and say, no, that's not how I said it. Remember, I said it this way. Holy Mother initiated many devotees in this holy shrine. Swami Vivekananda and other direct disciples meditated there. So you can imagine it's a powerful place. If you get a chance to go there, by all means do. by all means to go to M's house in Calcutta. Holy Mother initiated many devotees in this holy shrine. Swami Vivekananda and other direct disciples meditated there. Once, Shamasundari, Holy Mother's mother, visited M's shrine. When she saw the master's shoes in a glass case, she remarked, those shoes were still there in 1999. When she saw the master's shoes in a glass case, she remarked, when Sadhu was married, could I have known that my son-in-law was God and his shoes would be worshipped in this way? Sadhu was her affectionate name for Sharada. When Shamasundari, Holy Mother's mother, visited M's shrine, when she saw the master's shoes in a glass case, she remarked, when Sadhu was married, could I have known that my son-in-law was God and his shoes would be worshipped in this way? M's house is now like a museum where devotees can see an original print of the master's photo, his shirt, his shoes. Oh, they've kept them there. His shirt, they were there. His shirt and the shoes were there in 1999. You can see an original print of the master's photo, his shirt, his shoes, Holy Mother's footprints, and many other precious relics. Now, it's just a little after 8:30. Before we go on, I'd like to offer the opportunity for anyone to ask a question, make a comment, make a contribution. This is our studying the art of spirituality together. It's so important as a congregation, as a group, for us to do this. So, and it's not a demand or even a request, but if there is anything, now is the time to offer it.
Yes, Brother Shankara.
Yes, Sham.
What I want to ask you is, did M write anything about Holy Mother? Because he thought that she was the mother of the universe.
There is mention in the gospel of Holy Mother, usually under the name Ramlal's aunt, which is how the master would refer to her. But I don't believe he wrote anything specifically about the mother. There, as I say, there are mentions of her in the gospel. The fact that she lived in the Nahabat, the fact that she served the master, and so on and so forth. But I don't believe that he wrote any specific book about her, no. If anybody else knows differently, please say so.
Thank you.
Okay, Sean. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, Swayam.
So M received initiation 3 times. Is that unusual, or there are other disciples also who received initiation many times?
It's above my paycheck to say whether it's unusual. I do know that there are people who have received initiation more than once. I received instruction from Swami Prabhavananda, and then again formal diksha from Swami Swahananda. I was and am regarded as Swami Prabhavananda's disciple, and that Swami Swahananda was my upaguru, though he was my diksha guru. So I can speak for myself. There are others I know who have received more than one initiation. Just how unusual it is, I really can't say. There are the master will do what's necessary to complete the purification. This is the idea. When you become the master's own, the master will do what's necessary to complete your purification. And so if that means more than one initiation experience, that's what will happen.
Thank you.
A very, very good question. But just how unusual it is, can't say. Anyone else?
Shankara ji,
Yes, Balaji. So good to hear from you.
I was just reading this Inspired Talks earlier today.
Yes.
It's a coincidence, I suppose. Vivekananda says in one of the lectures, the ancient Hindus were wonderful scholars, veritable living encyclopedias. They said knowledge in the books and money in in other people's hands is like no money and no knowledge at all. So M belongs into the same category because he has such a wonderful memory and he was able to write everything.
Yes.
With very little corrections from Sri Ramakrishna.
Yes, very little corrections. And he had been with the master before. The master said that when he came as Sri Chaitanya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that M was in his party. He had that vision. So M was not new to this. But you know, when we take human form, each time when we take human form, we have all these limitations, all the glories, but all the limitations. Holy Mother pointed this out. Even the divine being, when they take human form, is subject to all the aches and pains and limitations of being human, and they must rise above them. And of course, that is one of the things that they do as an example to us, and also so that they can share their spiritual treasure with us, unimpeded by any remaining shadow or difficulty. They, as Christ said, I have overcome the world. And by that, he meant that there was no longer any impediment to him sharing his spiritual treasure with us. So he could say with complete sincerity, I am the vine, ye are the branches. Those who drink from my mouth shall not taste death. Well, there are analogous things said by Sri Ramakrishna. I am the refuge, he said. I am the refuge. And of course, that's very much reflected in the evening hymn, Kandana Bhavana, or Breaker of this World's Chain. Thank you, Balaji, for contributing that. And reading the Inspired Talks is certainly a good way to spend your time. Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay. M supports Holy Mother. After Ramakrishna passed away, the monastic disciples practiced austerities and traveled throughout India. They had no means with which to support Holy Mother. And that's true, they were all just, they went as traditional sadhus. They took nothing, had nothing. You know, Vivekananda took a cloth or two and 2 books, that was it, and his water pot. So they practiced austerities and traveled throughout India. They had no means with which to support Holy Mother. Both Balarama and Surendra, who had financially supported the master, died in 1890. These two that were so important as supporters of the Master's needs. They died in 1890, and Holy Mother suffered as a result. Other householder devotees were not aware of Holy Mother's financial condition because she was in Kamarpukur and out of communication with them. At that time, M took 3 jobs and distributed his salaries to Holy Mother, the Bharanagore Monastery, and his own family. Now, just think, M took 3 jobs. The salary of one job went to Holy Mother. The salary of the second job went to support the Bharanagore Monastery, where Ramakrishnananda did not do that wandering life. He stayed there at Bharanagore. Some of them did, but particularly Ramakrishnananda, he maintained the place, and the devotees could come there and participate in the worship and so on, and be fed and so on. They could receive prasad and so on. So. In 1894, M purchased a rice field of more than 1 acre in Jairambati for Holy Mother. He also provided 1,000 rupees to build a new house for her in Jairambati and to dig a well nearby. Now, 1,000 rupees at that time was a lot of money. You know, if you made 30 rupees a month, you were able to support a family on it. So 1,000 rupees to build a new house for her in Jairambati and to dig a well nearby. In addition to this support, M gave Holy Mother 10 rupees every month without fail. As I said, 30 rupees was enough to support a family. M gave her 10 rupees. Others were giving her some money also, but this was for her needs. But what she did with the money, of course, was feed and even clothe not only the near and dear, some people in her own family, but also she would feed and even give clothing to devotees, her children, as she thought of them. M and his wife accompanied Holy Mother when she went on pilgrimage to Puri in 1904 and to Varanasi in 1912. Holy Mother was very fond of M and his family, as Ramakrishna had been. She praised M's loving service and steadfast devotion. Holy Mother said to Nikunja Devi, "I know that Master Mahashaya, M, has many noble qualities. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been Sri Ramakrishna's instrument. You had to have that purity and nobility." On another occasion, she said, "The way Master Mahashaya walks reminds me of the Master who would walk the same way." There's our gait, the way we walk expresses a great deal about who we are internally. Swami Brahmananda, Raja Maharaj, was also said to walk like Sri Ramakrishna. As a matter of fact, people would see him from behind walking at Belrumat, and their first startled response was, I'm having a vision of the Master, because his back and the way he walked was so much like the Master. The way Master Mahashaya walks reminds me of the Master who would walk the same day. One day, as she heard M reading the Gospel, she remarked, "It seems that the Master is saying those words." In other words, his voice and his intonation became like the Master's. The Holy Mother remarked of him reading from the Gospel, "It seems that the Master is saying those words." During Kali Puja in 1904, Holy Mother was staying at a rented house in Bhoshpara Lane, Calcutta. M had informed her earlier that he would visit her that day. It was getting late at night. When someone said that perhaps M would not come, Holy Mother replied, "Is he an unreliable, ordinary man? He has deep passion for truth. You will see, he will definitely come." M arrived shortly thereafter. I'm going to repeat that because it's so indicative of several things. I'll talk about that after I've read it. During Kali Puja in 1904, Holy Mother was staying at a rented house in Bhoshpara Lane, Calcutta. M had informed her earlier that he would visit her that day. It was getting late at night. When someone said that perhaps M would not come, Holy Mother replied, "Is he an unreliable, ordinary man? He has deep passion for truth. You will see, he will definitely come." M arrived shortly thereafter. The Master and Holy Mother had this idea that once you have said something, you must follow through. You must do it. Sri Ramakrishna relented a little bit when he was still at Dakshineshwar. He relented a little bit from it, understanding that circumstances can prevail and so on, but not much. At one time, he said he would go to, who was it? Some nearby, one of the wealthy people who lived nearby, wealthy men who, his name is escaping me right now. Anyway, he said he would go to his house that day. And it was getting late at night. And so Sri Ramakrishna went there and slid open a door and just put his foot inside the house, and then returned to Dakshina, returned to the Kali temple, returned to his room. But that's how insistent he was that he do what he said he would do. On another occasion, Holy Mother said to Nikunja Devi, "Master Mahashai's love and devotion are phenomenal. His letter," oh, that's what it is. "His letter forced me to come to Calcutta from Kamarpukur." In other words, he had written to Holy Mother saying that she should come, I guess. "Master Mahashai's love and devotion are phenomenal. His letter forced me to come to Calcutta from Kamarpukur. He is a rare devotee. He is endowed with knowledge and devotion. His mind is pure and broad. No. His mind is pure and the blood, bones, and flesh of his body are pure. His mind is pure and the blood, bones, and flesh of his body are pure." All of us who are devoted to Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, this is our destiny as well. We may not be in that state yet, but it is our destiny. Once a devotee bowed down to Holy Mother at Udbodhan. She told that devotee, "Master Mahashai is downstairs. Please go and bow down to him. Know for certain he is a great soul." Holy Mother once remarked of him, "Is he an ordinary man? He has recorded so many of the Master's teachings. Is there any other avatar whose picture and conversations have been taken or recorded in such detail?" And you won't find one. The closest we can come, if we regard the Buddha as an incarnation, the closest we can come is that the Buddha's teachings were taken down in great detail, but there's no picture. Is there any other avatar whose picture and conversations, and the Buddha said, by the way, that he was not an avatar. So, is there any other avatar whose picture and conversations have been taken down, have been taken or recorded in such detail? It is as if the master is talking in M's book. No, what an instruction this is to us. When we read the gospel, it is as if the master is talking. That's what Mother says. It's 8:51. We have a few minutes before 9. We're about to start another little section about the Holy Mother and M's wife. Any comments or questions or anything that you'd like to contribute based on what we've heard and read so far? Okay.
Shankara,
Yes, Balaji.
just listening to these things, especially, M and Girish Ghosh, how they were such a, M was almost ready to commit suicide and his brother-in-law brings him to Sri Ramakrishna, and Girish Ghosh, it is such an amazing thing, and it gives us a hope. We have a hope also.
Yes, Balaji, you're exactly right. When we take these stories seriously and we take them to heart, when we feel distressed, when we feel like the world is overwhelming us, we can think, the Master is the refuge, Mother is the refuge. I can turn to them, I can go to them, and I can receive solace. As Swami Prabhavananda said in his first instruction, the chosen ideal, which for most of us is the Master or Mother, the chosen ideal is you yourself, no different. Learn to feel that living presence. And we can learn to feel that living presence. And it has the potential to change everything for us. Thank you for contributing that, Balaji. That's just exactly right. These inspiring stories of M, who because of his troubles with his extended family was feeling suicidal, and Girish Ghosh, who was, if not the world's greatest rogue and reprobate, he certainly is in contention. And both of them were transformed into saints. Saints. The young monks who were joining Belramat in the early days, not just the direct disciples who were all close to him, but and he used to visit them regularly at the Baranagar monastery. But the young monks who were joining after Belur was started, they used to be directed. Premananda and Saradananda and others would tell them, "Oh, you go see him. He'll tell you so many stories of the Master. He will inspire you so much." And that's what happened. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
When Swami Vedanta and Yogananda referred to as Kali and Yogin around the mother, or even Swami Vivekananda's Narain, it just seemed so endearing. Suddenly they become more closer, more approachable than with their titles. I mean, I can visualize and see, it just becomes, sometimes very endearing is the best way I can put it.
Oh, I like that word. That's exactly it. The beloved, over and over in the spiritual poetry of sainthood. We hear these, the great ones, the avatars, the incarnations, and their beloved companions, referred to in this way as the beloved. So endearing, so endearing. I like that word. Anything else?
I think M has provided a great service to all of us by recording the sayings of Sri Ramakrishna and then writing a big book like that,
Yes.
which is like a treasure,
It was.
And it is really, we should appreciate M.
Oh yes. Well, the master said in one context, "These are all my limbs, my limbs." And if you think of the goddesses and the gods with their many arms, their limbs, this is how they're seen. And this is how they're worshipped in puja also. This is how they're seen as the master's limbs. And so at the end of the puja, they're saluted in this way. Sometimes just Mother and Swamiji, sometimes more of them. But you're absolutely right, Sean, that this was, what an austerity Master Mahashai did. 3 jobs. He took 3 jobs so that he could give what he made from one job to the mother, with the other job, as the second job to the Bharana Gourmat, and the third to support his family, which he was the provider toward the end of his life for his extended family. So it was quite a crowd he was supporting. Wonderful. Thank you, Sean. Anything else? Okay, well, we'll begin the next time we read, which is will be in September. We'll take up this class again in the first Tuesday in September. For those of you who are interested, the one thing that will be done in August, other than Arati here, which will be done at sundown. If you want to join me for Arati, it'll be done at sundown, which is pretty close to between 8:30 and 9 o'clock now. The other thing that will be done is 8 o'clock on Monday evenings. There is a peer-led reading and discussion group about the book Love Poems from God. You know how much I admire and find that an inspiring resource, that book. Love Poems from God by Daniel Ladinsky, Ladinsky. You can get a nice paperback edition very reasonably, or you can get the Kindle edition for even a more reasonable price. We'll be reading from that. I won't be leading the group. It will be peer-led. And this initiative was Cindy's. She said she also is very devoted to that book, reads it every morning. And so she suggested this, and it seems like a wonderful thing to do for people who want to continue to stay connected. You don't need to buy a copy of the book. you can just, you'll find the link on the website and on the Facebook page. And so just join us and listen to a poem being read and discussed, or more than one. It'll be an hour and a half class from 8 o'clock till 9:30. And it isn't really a class, it's a reading and discussion group. It's a peer-led group. So it won't be a class in the normal sense of a class. So with that, we'll call it an evening. Well, there will be a class tomorrow night. And I think Saturday is the 1st of August, so there won't be a Saturday class. Oh. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya. Abir Moiti. O dearly beloved, lead us from this thy lesser truth to thy highest truth. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, light us through and through with thy everlasting shining presence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat. So I'll just say this about August. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not traveling. So if you want to come and see me, by all means do. Give me a call, send me an email. We'll arrange to meet. We'll wear our masks and keep our distance and so on and so forth. But we can definitely spend time together if that's your wish, and it would be my delight. So, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. Go in Mother's loving and protective embrace. Until tomorrow evening, if you join us. Until then.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. See you tomorrow.
Good night, dears.
Thank
Good
you.
Brother Shankara.
Good night, dears.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.